When are you going to Africa? When are you going to Africa? When are you going to go back to the motherland? X, Y, and Z. What I see in this community is a almost like pressure and trying to force black men specifically to go to Africa. So we're in this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 reasons why I have no interest in going back to Africa. Okay, now let's keep this in mind. Africa is a huge continent, all right? And this is just my opinion, all right? So if you want to argue and debate in the comment section, have fun.
I'm going to give you 4 reasons to why I'm never going back to Africa. Of course, it's not me. You know that I am African, born and raised in Africa. I live in Africa and I love Africa very, very much with all of my heart. So recently, I stumbled upon this video on the internet of an African American brother, apparently, who currently lives in Brazil. And he has these 4 reasons to why he does not see himself ever going back to the motherland. And I thought, why not share this? And we'll have something to learn about from this, to see from this. So what's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good wherever you are. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome for today's video. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not. Without wasting so much of your valuable time, let me show you the entire video, the entire 4 reasons. And after each reason, I believe we will have something to say. So let's just dive right into this video. So here we get started.
All right, I get asked all the time, when are you going to Africa? When are you going to Africa? When are you going to go back to the motherland? X, Y, and Z. What I see in this community is a almost like pressure and trying to force black men specifically to go to Africa. So we're in this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 reasons why I have no interest in going back to Africa. Okay, now let's keep this in mind. Africa is a huge continent, all right? And this is just my opinion, all right? So if you want to argue and debate in the comment section, have fun. So I have been to Africa before. I spent a couple of months in Africa, and I never talk about this on my channel because I was in the Air Force. I worked for a special operations wing, and we deployed to Djibouti. In Djibouti, we were able to go off base and interact with the locals, and it's relatively safe, okay? So I have been to Africa before. Now people will say, well, you didn't go to the real Africa. You didn't go to the sub-Saharan Africa. Like, I don't have time for the arguments and the debates, okay? So I have been to Africa before. I do not have any interest in going back. It's not a high priority for me and a lot of brothers, okay? And look, we're gonna go through the 4 reasons here, and we're gonna just start off with the most controversial one, all right? So number 1, the number 1 reason, one of the reasons is the variety of women, all right? So listen to me, guys. I know, I'm sorry if the camera keeps moving around. I know that Africa has some attractive women, and I'm gonna show you one here, okay? So we're looking at a baddie over here, okay? In my opinion, this is a certified dime piece, okay? She lives in South Africa, okay? Her body is ridiculous, okay? This is what we call an automatic skeet session. This is without any question. This is a automatic tossing salad. Like, we're gonna get all into it, okay? Now, this is a certified baddie, okay? Now, here's the issue though. all of the YouTubers who go to Africa, I am not seeing anyone pull anyone near this level. None of them. Okay, and it could be for quite a few reasons. It could be that the women of her caliber, there's a low supply. There's not a lot of them. Okay, if you juxtapose that to Brazil, for an example, or Colombia, for an example, bad bees are coming out of the woodwork, literally. You can't leave your house without seeing an abundance of beautiful women. And I fear, and this is what everybody's telling me, is that when you compare places like Africa, generally speaking, you're not going to see baddies like this, tens, 20s, dozens out of the woodwork, automatically breaking your neck every time you leave the house. It's just not happening. I will tell you, as a male, as a heterosexual male, I am inspired every day by beautiful women. Beautiful women is part of the reason why I came to Brazil, because also there's a lack of variety of beautiful, a lack of variety in Africa. You're not going to get the same amount of variety as you would in, say, South America, right? Here, just use Brazil for an example. In Brazil, they have literally everything, certified baddies. White girls with blonde hair, redheads, brunettes. You got the full gambit of black women, the chocolates to the lion's mane light-skinned ones to the racially ambiguous Stacey Dash ones. You got the Indo-Indians, right? The ones that look like they came straight from India. You have the indigenous-looking Indians with the long.
Let me pause and let's take it at this point. Now, I don't want to. First of all, I I respect everybody's opinion, and it's a liberal world, so everybody has their own preferences. But to be honest, and I don't want to judge him as sexist or anything. I don't even want to go onto that line. But how much in a scale of priority is it that anyone would change their location, would leave their home, would go and start a new life altogether just for women or even for men? Would you just leave Africa because you want to go to China just because there are women in China? Really? Okay. Well, I know there's people move around to get their their partners, their fiancés, their girlfriends and boyfriends, their soulmates. But how much of a priority is it that you're permanently relocating, say, from Europe to Africa for the women? You're permanently leaving Europe to Africa for to get a variety of young men looking like this and that. Again, that notwithstanding, in fact, I want to say that this guy purports to have been in Africa, but he says he's only been in Djibouti for uh, a couple of months, for some months. Africa, I think this is what people outside of the continent really mistake Africa for. Africa is not one single landmass of country with the diversity in Africa. And we know this when it comes to beauty and diversity in Africa is one place that is leading in terms of the most diverse um, people on earth. Africa has the most diverse people on earth. Try to pull pictures on it. Just go to the internet, Google for yourself and see West African women, say women in Senegal or Nigeria or Ghana, and try to compare them with women in South Africa, how they look like, and then compare the same to women in Ethiopia and Eritrea, and compare the same with women in Egypt and in Morocco, and you will see such diversity, such huge huge differences. And from what I have seen in his interest, I don't know the person he's showing, but I think from what I have seen, he probably has never heard of a country called Rwanda, because that looks like, I think he needs to go to the internet to check out those ladies from Rwanda, if that is his personal preference. Well, people have different preferences, but then I think just because women really and men from a sexist point of view, like he is putting across, can be such a priority for relocation of people. Me leaving Africa, going to Asia, Europe, to North America or South America. For the women, maybe business, maybe yeah, and yeah, business opportunities. Those others, the women and so on, will come along, but that would not be my priority. In my country itself, um, I feel like he's really wrong on this, because in my city, not even in the entire country, just in Nairobi, you can just find about any kind of lady you want to see. If you're out there to find them, they're not coming for you. You're going out to find them. He is comparing Djibouti, a country of 1 million people, to Brazil. Brazil, a country that the black population of Brazil is close to 100 million. Juxtapose that, compare that to a country of just barely a million, just slightly over a million people. Really, is that even a fair comparison? He's comparing Djibouti, a country with a total population of slightly above 1 million. Compare it to, in my city in Kenya, Nairobi has not less than 5 million people. And that is just a city in Kenya. And Kenya is not far from Djibouti. I think his comparison, to be honest, share your thoughts on this in the comments. So let's go to his second reason. So let's go ahead and watch.
Number two, and this is something that is not talked about enough, especially with these YouTube channels that romanticize Africa. Scams in Africa. Africa, generally speaking, because we're talking about all the countries, runs rampant with scams. Now, let's be fair and balanced. A lot of countries have scams. A lot of countries are on some nefarious stuff. But it's on another level in Africa, and they are scamming people, and people are finally want to talk about it. So let's go into it. So let's talk about one of the most common scams in Africa. Overpricing you for goods and services, charging you more than what they would charge the local population. Just because you're an American, just because you're not from that country, they're going to charge you more, even if you're black, right? Hey, a lot of people go to the motherland. Oh, I'm going to the motherland. They feel they're going to get there and have a connection, and then they get scammed and get charged more for stuff. And it's just not, it's food, it's tours, safari tours, and what else do we have here? They do the fake charity scams. All you have to do, if you don't believe anything that I say, all you got to do is search Ghana scams on YouTube. You can search Kenya scams. You can search South Africa scams. You can just search scams, Egypt scams. It's scam central. Nigerian scams. We didn't even talk about Nigeria. Shout out to my Nigerian folks. I love y'all. Okay, but there's some scamming going on there. So scamming is just out of control. And every country has its issues, to be fair, right? You're not going to necessarily get scammed in Colombia, but they will drug you and try to kill you, right? A lot of the times, all right? So at least here in Brazil, they'll try to steal your cell phone, right? You got people trying to steal your cell phone. They're trying to steal your purse. They're going to target the elderly and the weak and stuff like that. So every country has its challenges. But as a person who has a bachelor's degree in finance, I'm very financial savvy, right? One of my biggest pet peeves and one of the things that just irks me the most is when people try to charge me more than what an item is. That goes for box two, by the way. Yeah, basically, you can fill in the blanks. Basically, my biggest pet peeve is when people try to overcharge me for a good or services more than the local population.
Okay, before he goes to number three, let's talk about number two for a minute. So scamming. So I'm 100% with him on this. That scamming is rampant in this continent of Africa. But I want to tell him something, or I want to bring to our notice that scamming is not limited to Africa and being overcharged, overpriced for basic services just because you are a foreigner. That happens. That happens to just about anybody. And I'll give you two examples. So, Uganda, which is an African country, so he probably might think I'm supporting him on this. When I visited the neighboring country of Uganda myself, I often felt like I got a little bit overcharged for just eating something on the streets because they realized that I was Kenyan and I was from across the border. Not even Kenya. Let's not even talk about Kenya. When I so in Kenya, when you visit the coastal city of Mombasa, and because we have a very different accent with people from the city of Nairobi and people in Mombasa have very different accents. So when they realize you're coming from Nairobi, if you're not very careful, you might always be conned, be scammed a few coins here and there. So that will happen to just about anybody, not because you're American, African American, a white person. Again. So a different example. I had a friend who once told me that he visits Qatar in the Middle East um often. He told me anytime he was out there to show up, to eat, to have fun, he always knew that he was getting overcharged, overpriced when he was alone compared to when he is with a Qatari friend of his. And bear in mind, Qatar is not in Africa, and Qatar is not a poor country by any means, So it's not limited. This happens, and Nigeria might be leading in terms of scammers, but you know who comes second? It's India. India is not Africa. India is not inhabited by Africans. And you know who else are on the list? You'll find countries in Europe. You'll find Russia, third on that list. Russia is in Asia and Europe. And every other country has scammers. But he says he has a master's degree in finance, so he's so sensitive when it comes to monies. I don't know. Would you be scammed a little coins here and there over your life? Because he just brings another comparison and he says in a country like Colombia, and we know this happens in parts of South America, you're likely to get dragged and shot very easy compared to Africa. In America itself, a school-going kid is likely to pull out a gun and threaten you and shoot you, and that's not going to happen in Africa. So I personally, I'd rather be scammed over a few banknotes, a few coins, and look for that, other than a school-going kid, elementary school. We call them here in Kenya, primary school-going kid, pulling a gun on me, on other kids. So I don't know what his priority is, but scam. Africa is one disenfranchised place economically, and that is one of the reasons that leads to. But if you're being careful enough, just basically careful enough. Because um, there are no supermarkets for foreigners in Africa and for locals. No, and the price tag of a product on a supermarket shelf is the one you're gonna pay whether you're a foreigner or a local. So do your shopping, buy your things from places that are certified, places that your safety and such things are guaranteed. If you want to move around Nairobi or any other African city, get yourself an Uber taxi. Uber that already shows you your price even before they know who they're going to pick. And you're not gonna get scammed over that. But if you're looking for shortcuts and cheap ways to get things and to get around, then you're also putting yourself on the line of fire. So why don't you just hail an Uber taxi? Why don't you just get your shopping from a supermarket? Why don't you just get things? Just do a bit of, before you buy a product or property, a little research, regardless of whether it's Africa or Europe or America. Do a little research, get some facts, some basic facts right, and go ahead and purchase. But because anywhere, joking with money anywhere, regardless of whether it's Africa or out of Africa, you might always get scammed. So let's hear his third reason.
To number 3, which is tribalism. 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 O'Shea Duke Jackson and the people who go on his channel, they talk a lot about tribalism. They talk a lot about how you have well-to-do black people who come to Africa with good intentions. And this, I'm not saying all of Africa, and I'm not saying it happens to everyone, but it's very common, okay? They get treated like outcasts, even though they have the same lineage, the same genetic makeup. But because you are British black or American black and you want to go to Africa to conduct business, they're going to treat you like an outsider. Nobody talks about that. A lot of these guys on YouTube talk about how rampant racism is in South America, but they gloss over the tribalism that is in Africa and how rampant it is. Even with other, you have YouTube channels with other African.
Okay, I'm gonna cut him short on this because I don't feel like he's being honest. Now, tribalism is common and very rampant in Africa. I agree that 100%. But does he really know what tribalism is? Now, this tribalism hardly affects. And tribalism is not racism and it's not colorism. Get that very clear and very correct. Tribalism is where people of the same tribe, in Africa we have many tribes, every country has a number of tribes, favor each other at the expense, at the cost of other people from the same country but different tribes. And you often realize that if a powerful government person has opportunities in government, he's likely going to prefer his kinsmen, his tribesmen, over other tribes, people from other tribes. Now, this does not even reach to the extent of foreigners. Listen to this correctly, because coming to Kenya as an African American, you do not belong to. So in Kenya, we have about 50 or slightly over 52 tribes, if I'm not wrong, just around there. So if you come to Kenya as an African American looking for a service in a government office or somewhere, you do not even belong. Your name, which names are usually the sellouts, because if I see almost any name, surname in Kenya, I can tell you which tribe this person belongs to. But when I see an African American name, usually they do not have a tribe you can pin them back to. So see, these people are not actually affected by um, this tribal issue. As an outsider, or even coming from another country in Africa, that now because we have tribal names. Now you come up with that, you come and present a name that cannot be attached or associated to any tribe in Kenya, assuming you're coming from a country in West Africa like Nigeria. Your surname is not going to be anything close to any surnames in Kenya, because you do not belong to any tribe, and they often view you without the tribal biases. So I think he's confusing colorism. Again, something I have to bring to the notice of African American brothers. So, on the scale of identity for Africans, color or a complexion of your skin does not rank very high. That is something you should know. I know for African Americans, or you might want to call yourself Black Americans, the color of your skin really ranks high in your identity. For us, because we're all black, it's nothing that in our identity that we really hang on to and think as part of our identity, because probably everybody thinks everybody next to them is black. So first understand that when you come here as an African American, as a black person from Europe, we do not really notice you and do not think we're automatically going to give you the treatment you want because you're coming from America. No, because we see a black person, and for us, blackness is not a big deal because we're all of us black. And it's a good thing, it's a bad thing at the same time, because if you think you're gonna get any privileges, any better treatment because you're American, but you're black, then unless I get to talk to you and you tell me who you are, then I will know that you are American. But looking at you, I see a black boy, I see a black person like me. I do not know whether you, because if I look at him and his complexion, we have many Kenyans. Sorry, we have many Kenyans just looking like him, and perhaps slightly lighter in complexion than him. So you're not going to command so much out of your skin color until maybe if you're wishing to do that again. So that's a bad thing for someone who wish to be recognized, to be given VIP treatment because they're American. You're not gonna get that out of just being there and being black and being, with your complexion. You're not gonna garner any attention. Again, but the good parts again is for those people that maybe have undergone through racial oppression and racism in America or in Europe. When they come back to the continent, then they can sigh, they feel relieved because it is one place that the color of your skin doesn't matter. You do not have to be conscious of being, black, because nobody notices you for being black. So let's hear his fourth and last reason.
Let's get into the last bit, okay? Because I say this for last, but it's kind of a weaker point, all right? But we're going to go into that, right? So I am a foodie, okay? I am a foodie, and I like gourmet dishes. Now, you got to ask yourself, a question. Name 3 world-renowned food dishes that come out of Africa. You can't come up with one because, and also, it could now. I'm just saying what I'm trying to say is Africa as a continent is not known for its culinary arts. Not saying they don't have, and I'm not saying black people can't cook because they can. Jamaican food is fire. Okay, I remember the first time I had a beef patty, it literally just melted in my mouth. Okay, melted in my mouth, spicy too. A little beef patty. Okay, they don't have. Unfortunately, we don't have Jamaican restaurants here, but Africa is not known for its culinary arts. Okay, and I never heard anyone tell me ever that they were blown away by the food in Africa. Not to say that they can't cook, it's just that um, it's just generally okay. And that's okay. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you too. I'm gonna be fair and balanced. And I could be wrong, right? You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong, but I'm not. It's the same thing with Brazil. Okay? And people are gonna get mad at me, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Brazilian food is okay. It ain't really super good, and it ain't really super bad.
Okay, I got I cut him short because we know what he's talking about. So Africa is not known for its culinary prowess. That's a lie. That's a big, big fat lie. Africa has culinary prowess that is unmatched. But he says, name any world renowned food that comes from Africa. What makes a food world renowned? What gives the food that status? Sometimes he's consuming a lot of Western media, and Western media does not never shows Africa in good light. Western media is the same media that says Africa is dangerous, Africa is remote, Africa is everything they tell you about Africa. And then you come to Africa, you realize that people walk here freely. Nobody is carrying guns left, right, and center, unless when the Western imperialists bring war to Africa, like he was doing in Djibouti, the guy himself. He should have told us what he was doing in Djibouti. Um, and then you realize that in Africa, we have all the social amenities, might not be as advanced, but we just have anything that you need. You can get anything you need, just like in your country of origin. So Africa has its food. Indigenous African foods are all over. In fact, every country. I don't know what YouTube he's watching, because every African country has food that is known to it, and it's good, great quality food. In fact, in Kenya, you can even sample foods from different regions or within the same country. Then you go to another country. If you can sample different foods from different regions, what about in the same country? What about different countries? Africa, we do not get, we know this. This is no secret that Africa does not get that much on the spotlight, on a positive perspective as such, and that hides Africa's truth behind, in the veil. But that is not true. Africa has just about great food, you know. I personally don't also know what what food. If you were to tell me what is that food that is well known for coming from a big country like the UK and Germany. I don't know. I personally don't know. I believe they do have great food there coming from those countries, but I haven't gone out there to try and research and find. So that is exactly what he has not done. Go out and find. If you don't find, then you're not gonna know anything. If you don't try to learn, knowledge is not going to into your head without you trying to acquire the knowledge. I think it's as simple as that. We have his four reasons. What I just realized from how he speaks, his worldview, his perspective of Africa is so narrow. It's really so narrow. He's talking about Africa from a perspective of Djibouti, really. Djibouti, a country of 1 million people. He stayed in Djibouti for just a couple of months. He thinks he can now decide People have preferences. I don't have with his personal preference. And come here to Nairobi, you would find any kind of food. You go to restaurants in Nairobi and you'll see Kenyan corner for the meals. So you can get African or Kenyan meals from that menu. And then in the same menu, you will find just about in Africa we have Jamaican restaurants, in Chinese restaurants, Vietnamese restaurants, Brazilian. What's the name of? There's a name of one very famous Brazilian restaurant in Nairobi. uh so if you have your preferences and you're living in Nairobi, you can always get your American delicacies in Nairobi. You can get your Kenyan dishes in Nairobi. You can get your European dishes in Nairobi. You just need to know the right places to tap to go to, you know. His view is so narrow, and I don't really think he's being honest. He's saying the truth, but I still think there's some truth in what he's saying. He's just exaggerating and pinning to Africa what really just exists about in every other place in the world. Africa has its downside and of course a lot of upside, just like America does have the down and the upside, you know. So that is what I had to share with you today. If you have your comments and your opinions and reaction to this, share in the comments, like and share the video itself. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel for more content, interesting content like this, please go ahead and hit that subscription button. See you in the next video. Peace out.